Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Roberto for those that are new. For those that have been here before, thank you so much for your returning. Before you do anything, hit the like or dislike or whatever that thumb thing, just do that for us. That would be awesome. This is our Christmas special episode. I've got no tinsel or trees or ball things, so it's not really that Christmassy, but it's in a couple of days. It's going to be Christmas and I'm putting it out just before Christmas, so it's a Christmas special, whether you like it or not. So there you go. Now, in this episode, we're going to go over or rehash one part of the bike because there's been a new player enter the market, and we're going to talk about the humble Sump Guard. So that's one thing. And then we're also going to do an impromptu oil change. It's impromptu for a reason, and you'll find out if you watch the video. So let's go across and let's see the new Sump Guard designed by none other than Evotech from the UK. Let's have a look at that. So this is the Desmo World Sump Guard. It was designed by the team at Desmo World in Germany. It was something that I think all Street Fighter owners needed. And they saw a hole in the market, and they basically went for it. They supplied it to thousands of Street Fighter riders all over the world, and it just works. It looks good, it works, it's very minimalistic, came in a range of colors, was supplied in a beautiful, silver box, which was pretty cool. But yeah, it was just a really nice bit. There were a few things that, people thought, well, I can improve on this and I can improve on that. And, I've actually spoken to a couple of manufacturers about it, and they were like, look, we don't copy people. So hats off to them. We do what we do, let other people do what they do, which is cool. But there is a company that's come out with a new one, and we've got our hands on it, and that's good old Evotech, which if you're into sort of modern sports bikes or super naked bikes, or basically if you ride a bike that's been in the last 20 years, you would have heard, used or bought something from the UK company Evotech. So let's go have a look at their version of the humble Sump Guard. So we'll just do a bit of a side-by-side comparison. You've got Desmo World on the left and Evotech on the right. Visually, the Evotech is a lot bigger than the Desmo World Sump. Weight-wise, they're I would say the Desmo World's probably just a little bit heavier. I haven't got scales light enough to sort of weigh them. But yeah, I would say Evotech's a touch lighter because obviously, if I flip them around, there's a lot less material in the Evotech unit. And you can also see, again, like I said, the Evotech unit is a lot bigger, which kind of also is good because it does protect or hide a lot more of the Street Fighter Sump, and I kind of like it because it hides the join where you've got the oil filter sort of plate, and it hides that line, so you haven't got multiple lines. Also, what I think is really trick with the Evotech is it's got, I don't know if you can see it on the angle, it's got this beautiful air intake like an NAC duct, which is going to cool it down a bit, whereas the Desmo World's going to block off a lot of the cooling air. And that's why I thought it'd be a good idea to do like a heat sink or something like that, with these lines and have them machined in. So it actually does two things. One, protect the sump, but also increase cooling capacity of the oil. It'll probably do it by you probably wouldn't even be able to measure the difference. But anyway, that's what they look like side by side. So I'll do a bit of a quick shot now of actually how they look both together fitting on a Ducati Street Fighter Sump. So let's see the difference side by side of sort of just holding them there in the fitted position. So this is the Desmo World Sump Guard. So you can see it's very clean looking, bolts on with no fuss. It's a good unit. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, now let's fit the Evotech. Just here. So. Yeah, the Evotech I think looks nice because see how it covers that line, or where the actual original OEM oil filter plate screws on. So it kind of does that, but also it does actually cover a lot more, especially these side bits here, from getting chips and stuff like that. Whereas the Desmo World one, if we put that one back, it pretty much, and just hopefully you can see that, it just stops, a little bit. So things could still technically get chipped there, and it just goes, straight down. So it's not, covering any much more than it needs to cover. So it's, it's obviously doing its job. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think the Evotech just sort of covers a lot more. And I think, it looks pretty trick. I like it. I probably will end up, fitting an Evotech one to my Streetfighter now. I think it just looks a lot, more finished and, probably thought out. And, it's also got the air duct, so it's going to cool it a bit better. But that's what it looks like side by side. This is a bit of bonus information for you. I was going to do an oil change at 500 Ks just to get rid of the stock, crappy oil because it's brand new engine bedding in and stuff like that, and then do the proper service or the good oil at 1000 Ks, which we'll go through. But I had a genius idea, because it is hard to get the filter plate off. I've seen some people use chisels to chisel it and leave marks, but I found a brilliant way of doing it. I wouldn't recommend it, nor am I subscribing to this idea, but hear me out. All you need to do is forget to put back on your cover because you're doing a YouTube video, and don't put any bolts back in, and then have clients come around and they want to hear your bike, so you go to start it up, and then the pressure of the startup and the oil moving then forces this bottom plate to shoot off, leaking about a litre of oil on the ground, to the point where you get so scared you switch the engine off straight away. People are like, oh my god, it's got a leak. So that, it just literally just falls straight out. Best way of doing it. Again, don't advocate it, but that's literally just what happened about an hour ago with some clients. So luckily enough, it was literally probably, I'd say 500 to 600 mils of oil, and engine switched straight off. So there's been no damage done to it, but I just figured, well, look, half the oil's gone out, I might as well just drain it. So to drain your oil, there's two things you need if you haven't got a Sump Guard, which I think you're crazy if you don't. Undo the 3 8mm bolts that hold the plate, which is your filter cartridge inside, and then you've got a 14mm sump plug, which you undo. Obviously, just remember, and I remember this from when I was a kid, righty tighty, lefty loosey. So just, obviously you don't want to go right and thread your whole sump plug, because then you'll need a new sump, or you need to helicoil. But anyway, so we're going to drain the oil. We're going to see how bad or good the oil is. Now, I've heard of some people say, and some dealers and stuff like that, that they actually leave the bikes overnight to drain everything out, because that's a proper way of doing it, and then you put in obviously the specified amount of oil. So let's go drain whatever's left of the oil now and check it out and see how good quality or bad quality the oil is, to give us a good indication of how good or bad our engine is. Now, at this point, I would love to say I've left it overnight to drain and the next day we're coming in to do the oil, but that would be a lie to you, the viewer. It's been draining for a week because I've had no time to do it. I've been too busy dealing with customers and bikes and things like that. So we've got time now, so we're going to do it. So we jumped ahead a little bit. So you've got my madness method of undoing the 3 8mm bolts on the filter cartridge plate, and then starting it up and letting oil pour everywhere. That's one option. Probably wouldn't recommend it, but in hindsight, and also to be fair, I'm probably going to do it again, except this time I'm going to have an oil pan underneath and literally, be mindful of it, and as soon as I start it up, bang, straight off so it pops down, because it is a bit of a pain to get this off. Now, the way you get it off is there's actually threaded, like the actual cartridge itself, plate, is got threaded, so you put 8mm bolts into it. What I recommend, however, is to sort of turn it offset and then thread these in, and then go each one by one, and it will actually, release this cartridge plate, because you've got two massive O-rings that sort of grip and make it pretty hard to come off just with your hands. So that's why I've seen people use chisels and stuff, not thinking that they can use that. So that pops out. Now, the cartridge, or the oil filter cartridge itself, is pretty black and disgusting. The the oil itself has got a little bits of metal and stuff floating around in it. I think I see a part of a piston ring and a bit of a block over there, so that's all sort of floating in it. Then you've got the sump plug. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's all little bits of metal filings and shavings on it, and that's why I like to change the oil at 500 Ks and then at 1,000. Oil and filters are very, very cheap, I believe. Engines are not. It's probably going overboard, but have you seen this bike? We've gone overboard with everything else. Why wouldn't we go overboard with the oil that actually lubricates the engine or is the heart or the blood of the bike? So that's why I do it at 500 Ks. Now, I normally put a sort of, I wouldn't say a cheap oil, but sort of an average oil, a good quality but average oil, because at 1,000 Ks, I'm gonna do this whole process again and put some really cool oil in, which we'll talk about. I think it's called snake oil, or something like that. It's blue, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of how you would do that properly, as in take that off. Now, I use K&N oil filters or cartridges or whatever, not because I think they're great, but I think they're gonna be better than the OEM, which is not actually made by Ducati. It's just an OEM, manufacturer, God knows where in the world, that just pumps out these oil filters. And I like it because, probably not so much the cartridge, but I like it when it's like the can oil filter, because you can see it's got K&N written on it, and you're pretty cool if you've got an oil filter that says K&N. So that's what I do. So it's been draining for a week. We've got everything out. This basically gets shoved up in the guts of it. You want to have the open end in there, and then this one here will screw back on with the 3 8mm bolts. But before we do that, we're going to put the Evotech Sump Guard, and we're actually going to tighten it up. So then when I start it up again, when it's got oil in it, it's not going to basically pop off and fall out. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay. So we've bolted everything back up, so we're ready to fill it with oil. So just to again go back a little bit, because I always jump, I'm always just go. You need to make sure you torque every bolt. So you've got the 3 Allen key bolts now because of the Evotech Sump Guard. They need to be done to 10 Newton meters with a bit of Loctite, no more, no less. So 10 Newton meters max. Then you've got the sump bolt. That actually needs a bit of 3-bond or black silicon high temp sort of engine gasket that you put on the thread, and then you screw it in, and that will go to 14 Newton meters. So again, no more, no less. So it's 14 and 10. Please check the manuals, check updates. Things are always updated. I could be wrong, but that's what I've found and that's what I've done. So now everything is ready. So there's a new cartridge in there. There's the gasket goo, the thread locker, just medium strength for the for the cartridge, the filter cartridge plate. So it's all ready to fill it up with oil. Now, if you need to know how to fill it up with oil, then you probably shouldn't have been doing any of the other bits. So it's, again, pretty straightforward. You've got your oil cap, which you take off, and then you fill it up with oil. Now, there's lots of confusion. There's lots of people that overfill. From what I've read and what I've understood is whatever you pull out of the bike, that's what you should put back in. Then let it sit for another couple of hours after you start it and run it up to temp to check the level, and then add or take away if you've gone too much. So we've pulled out just shy of 3 litres. Remember, I did lose a little bit. So manual says 3.2 litres, but I'm going to fill it up with about 2.8. And then do the startup, let it sit for a couple of hours, and then check the level before I either add a little bit more oil. I probably should have to add oil. If I don't, then there's definitely major problems. But yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. So let's fill it up now. Now I've just swung the camera over the other side of the bike because that's where the sight glass is. So we can see, and this is the sight glass for everyone, you can see there's the top level and the lower level. I filled it up around 3 litres, and you can see it's perfectly in line with the top level, so job's done. Not really, no, because we still need to start it up, because when you start it up, there's going to be the oil, which is going to go into the oil filter cartridge, so the level will drop down and we will need to add oil. But how much oil, we don't know. So that's why you need to start the bike up, let it run for a minute or so. Make sure you keep a look on the red oil pressure light, because if that doesn't go out, then you've got major problems. And also look on the ground to see if there's any pools of slippery, oily stuff, because that means you haven't bolted everything back. So yeah, I thought I'd just show you the level there. So technically I've done it right. If it was a little bit over, it wouldn't be too bad either, because when we start it up, it should technically drop down, but we'll see how much it drops down now. So we'll put the bike on the ground, start her up, and then check the level in a couple of hours later. So I found the key. We're gonna basically start it up, and what we're gonna be looking for are two things, and that's the oil dash light for it to go out, and then also looking for a pool of oil on the floor if I haven't tightened up something right. So let's start it up. I just thought it'd be a big opportunity to hear the bike for a bit. So let's, fingers crossed, it starts. So everything's good, light went off straight away, no pools of oil underneath, which is another bonus. And so now what we'll do is we'll have a look at the sight glass over a couple of hours, see where it ends up. We will, however, because some might have noticed going, well, hang on, it's not level because it's on the rear stand, we will drop that down so it's level. Reason I put that on is just a bit more stability. You've got the front wheel chock, and God forbid a bike should fall over. So yeah, that just adds a bit of security there. So we'll come back in a couple of hours, which will hopefully be a couple of hours, not another 2 weeks, because I actually want to ride this bike on the holidays. That would be nice. And we've actually done 305 kilometers. So it's a very, very, very premature oil change, but hey, kind of we're there, we had to do it. And you guys are learning, we're all learning. So that's great. So yeah, let's come back in a couple of hours. Now, love to say came back in a couple of hours. That didn't happen. I did come back like 2-3 hours after, which was yesterday, and today is today. And the level was low. So I added oil, and it was right on the line. So the line was perfect, the top line, everything was great. Then came in this morning and the bike was overfilled. So I had to actually drop oil out. So it's kind of probably a 2-day job, to be honest with you. If you're at home doing it, you want to drop your oil, let it stay overnight. Then the next day you want to fill up the oil to the line, start it up, wait for it to drop the very next day, and then top up, and then you'll get the perfect level. So yeah, I thought a couple of hours after it'd be fine. It did come up a little bit, but then I topped it up to the line and then come in this morning and it's, you know, way over the line. So I probably had to drop about 300 mils out to get it. So now it is perfectly on the line. Well, it's actually not perfect on the line right now because I started it up. So tomorrow when I come in, hopefully it'll be on the bloody line. Otherwise, yeah, that's it for me. So that's kind of how you do an impromptu oil change on a Ducati Streetfighter V4 or a Panigale if you've got a Panigale, or technically a Multistrada now because they've got the V4 as well. You have to sort of remember that these engines are really sort of next level stuff. They're almost like supercar territory, like with dry sumps and this and that. These don't have dry sumps, but they have special scavenger lines and things like that, and it takes so long for all the oil to actually drain out of the galleries into the oil pan to get the level. So they are becoming very, very, very sophisticated, even in just a simple procedure of changing your own oil. So and we all know the bad things that can happen if you underfill or if you overfill. You know, manufacturers put a line there because that's what they recommend. So yeah, so that's how you do the oil change. On that note, I want to say goodbye to everyone. We started the YouTube channel, well, actually we started it quite a few years ago, and we had 2 subscribers. I think they're still with us, I'm not sure. We've grown the channel like exponentially to about 500, which still in the whole scheme of things is not much, but hey, it is what it is. I'm happy just to sort of, when I've got the time to sort of do this content for everyone. Just want to thank everyone that has subscribed, liked and shared and commented and all that type of stuff. I really do appreciate it. It's very nice, and I hope you enjoy watching the content. It's probably gotten a little bit better from my first one to sort of now. But that being said, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope everyone's safe. I hope, depending on what part of the world you're in, the part of the world that I'm in, we're going into summer, and we're going into sort of like fire territory where we're having 40 degrees Celsius days in a row. So hopefully a lot of night riding will be in order, so that'll be good. In other parts of the world, you're freezing your balls off, so good luck with that. But hey, you had your summer, now it's our turn. So again, thank you everyone. Be safe, be happy, and we'll see you all again next year, where we've got a couple of things that we're still got to do a bit of tuning and stuff like this on the Streetfighter, so we're still going to run with this a little bit, but we'll probably start with another project. And we'll sort of start from scratch and do a similar sort of thing. And then obviously I've got a few cars and bits and pieces that I'm also playing with if you're interested in that type of stuff. So again, I'm going to shut up now and say goodbye. Thank you so much. Be safe, take care, and God bless. See ya.